Okay, morning everyone. We are just delighted to have the lovely Jamie from Foresight with us today. And just some background, I guess, I've known Foresight as a business for, well, I always say to people I'm about 100 years old, so it feels like I've known you guys for a long, long time. But only met Jamie recently, but Jamie's head of marketing in Forth from Northern Ireland, and you will get this blurred accent a little bit from Jamie of Northern Ireland and Scottish, but I'm just going to introduce you quickly, Jamie. So Northern Irish export Jamie, head of marketing for Forth Communication, which includes Foresight, hotel, CRM, so customer relationship management, and also marketing solutions for the hospitality sector. So Jamie started his career in hospitality, meeting and events, and you're passionate about building brands and improving the experience for guests and hoteliers. So you've led national and global B2B marketing teams for companies from Fortune 500 software to legal services. So a great sort of all-round career, very focused on customers. Just before I let you start, Jamie, this is the last in our series just before Christmas. So I think this is episode 6, and what we're trying to do is kind of take people on that revenue ready journey. So understanding a technology landscape, understanding who our customer is. So this, and we'll talk about it a lot today, that kind of reluctant staycationer, which I still always have to give Janelle credit for coining that phrase. And now I guess we're talking about how we communicate with these people and how to get the best out of communication. As always, this isn't obviously about your product or anything. You're giving us some great standards of how to communicate, and we will talk through not just how to do it if we have software, but how to put some practices in place if you don't have that opportunity to have software. So we're going to break for a little while after or over Christmas. Apparently somebody called Santa's coming, and who knew? And I'm delighted that, especially for the hotels here that are on from our local industry here in Northern Ireland, delighted that you guys are all opening on Friday, and I really hope this series is helping, and please do just keep an eye out because we will be running more in January. So Jimmy, over to you if you're happy to share your screen, which we didn't actually practice when we
No, I was just thinking, I hope this works.
We're too busy chatting, so sorry.
No, that's all right. So I will. So if I do that.
Perfect. Look at that. You'd think we'd practiced it. We're almost perfect, Jamie.
Is that full screen? Is
that is perfect. That is perfect. Can I just say, sorry, I'm going to butt in already and just say, if anyone has any questions, would you mind just putting them in the chat box? I can put them to Jamie. I'm just going to moderate that. If you prefer to ask a question, by speaking, just let me know, and I'm very happy to kind of unmute you. But just put any questions, and as I said to Jamie while people were coming into the session this morning, the magic really happens when the questions start. So please feel free. I do have some questions, but please feel free to ask away. Jamie, I know with a lot to cover, so I'm just going to let you kick off. Thank you.
No problem at all. I will just get myself going. So, first of all, just want to say thanks, Adrienne, for setting all this up and for inviting us along. As Adrienne mentioned, I'm head of marketing at Forth Communication, which is the parent company of Foresight, which is a hotel CRM and marketing SaaS product specifically designed for the hotel industry. And as you know, I'm not quite sure why I used the avatar picture here, because it looks far too well rested, because you can actually all see me, which is I'm not going to get away with that this time. It looks far too well rested and young to be me. But yeah, Adrienne, thanks for the intro. We're going to talk a little bit today about guest communication and why personalizing your guest communication is so important. And I'm going to break it down into sort of three sections, and Adrienne, feel free to jump in at any point. But the sort of three broad topics I want to kind of talk to you about today is the importance and expectation of personalizing your communications. And this was something actually came out of our run through, Adrienne, was the whole humanizing your brand. So it's not just about selling. It's about enriching the guest experience. It's about humanizing your brand to your guest. Then I'll talk a little bit, more than a little bit, about how data is the key to actually unlocking these communications and to personalizing the communications that you provide to your guest throughout their guest journey. And lastly, we'll talk a little bit about how alignment between marketing and revenue can actually really help push these communications forward and deliver real value, not just for the guest, but for the hotel as well. So when we talk about personalization, just as a bit of an introduction, when we talk about personalization, what we're really saying is that we want to show to the guest that we understand them, that we actually understand their needs and their wants, and we're providing communication and offers and value additions that are relevant to them and relevant to their specific situation. The various communication touch points that you have with your guests, they give you a great chance to make meaningful connections with them by showing that you understand their interests. To achieve that, you need to personalize your communication. You need to talk to them on a one-to-one basis. And that's how you actually build trust and engagement that turns new customers into repeat customers and referrals. You want to show that you understand your guest, and I'll be saying that a lot, but it really does come back to that. It's about understanding who your guests are. I just want to stress at this point, we're not just talking about selling to the guest at every turn. Rather, as you get to know each other, they'll see you more as a partner and not someone constantly trying to sell to them. Research actually shows that engaged guests who are actually engaged with you as a brand will generally have a higher spend. And there was research carried out by a company called Qubit who found that personalizing guest relations can actually increase the revenue per guest by up to 6%. So there's real revenue benefits to engaging with this, as well as other benefits in terms of loyalty and in terms of guest satisfaction, which is key as well. To kind of frame all this, I want to talk a little bit about how communication is changing, and this is true even sort of irrespective of COVID-19, which has changed the landscape and how people interact anyway. But this change in how people are actually wanting to receive communications is something that's been happening just over time as demographics change. And a good way to illustrate this is to actually just have a look at the key demographics that are your guests at the moment. You've got baby boomers, so between 1946 and 64, and they prefer to engage on the telephone. They prefer to engage sort of face-to-face, one-to-one. They're technologically risk averse, and they're maybe a bit slower to adopt new technologies. Then we have Gen X, who are between 1965 and 1980, and they're the lovers of email. They were around when email first became a primary mean of communication, and the telephone, but they're more accustomed to adopting new technologies and new ways of communicating and engaging. And to use an analogy sort of based in the retail sector, is they're the ones who are happy to go to the checkout that has a person on it, but they're also happy to go and use the self-service checkout as well. So they've adopted that into their life, but it's not replaced the other elements as well. And that's key to keep in mind when you're thinking about communicating with this, with particular demographics. Then we've got the much maligned millennials from 1981 to 1996, and they're the digital natives. So they're the first digital natives. They're the ones whose smartphones are an extension of their arms. phone phobia is actually a real thing for millennials. They don't want to talk to people on the phone. They would much rather have their engagement, and this is sort of sweeping generalizations. There are millennials who aren't like this, but is they would rather engage using digital mediums. They'd rather engage using messages. As they don't like to talk on the phone is a great example of that. To use the retail analogy again, they're the ones who'll make a beeline straight for the self-service checkout rather than going and talking to the person. They're not as comfortable with the face-to-face engagements. Interestingly, though, we've got Gen Z who are the ones coming up at the minute, and the eldest in that demographic are now 23, with it starting in 1997. So they're what's kind of being referred to now as the born digital generation. So they're the ones who were born into this sort of digital environment. They're even more dependent on their devices than millennials, but as a polar opposite to the millennial counterparts, they actually still like the face-to-face engagement. They actually want the face-to-face engagement, but they demand a high level of personalization in all engagements. So they expect you to speak to them and to know and to anticipate their likes, to anticipate their wants. And I think it's important to maybe just focus on them a little bit, because they are becoming and will become a huge buying power over the next while. They're the ones who are coming up, and they're the ones who will become more of your guests as time goes on. I just want to focus a little bit on the expectation.
Can I just jump in and ask you something? Sorry. Do you think that there's sort of blurred lines now because of COVID, and that some of these people who maybe were tech averse, that older generation, they've been forced by their families to go on Zoom and they've been forced to communicate in a different way? Do you think if you have an older demographic coming into your hotel that you maybe should be considering that? For now, I think those lines are more blurred.
Absolutely. I think blurred lines, I think that's a great way to put it, Adrienne, to be honest, is as demographics shift, people in general are becoming more tech savvy, but the older generation are, I think, being forced almost, is maybe not the most pleasant way to put it, but they are engaging more with these channels, which is potentially a good thing. And there are, I mean, my 84-year-old grandmother is never off WhatsApp and Facebook and and that kind of thing. Her iPad goes everywhere with her now, and Zoom and FaceTime and all of that has become a way of engaging. So absolutely, I think it is shifting. That the digital experience is probably going to be more acceptable to some of the technologically risk-averse groups now, more so than it was before. Speaking personally, I mean, I'm a consumer who falls into the millennial camp, and probably do suffer a little bit from the phone phobia as well. But with all of this, even and particularly maybe with the older generation as well, it's about making sure that what you're doing complements and enhances the human aspect of your brand. So if you're engaging with, say, the older demographics, then make sure the communication you're giving them is actually personal and it's human and it's not robotic, and it conveys that you are a group of human beings talking to another human being, rather than it being quite stilted. It's about making the connection, I think, regardless of the demographic, and making sure you're offering the value and not just peddling your wares.
This isn't a question, Jamie, but I actually wrote this down after our chat, and it was just, when someone says a couple of words and they just ring true with you, and I wrote this down, and I've literally said, I love your quote of conversational communication, and I think that's really, really important, that people feel that they're having a conversation with their hotel provider, and almost like a relationship, that they're not being sold to, they're not being pushed things, but it is more like a kind of conversation. And I think, well, in my opinion, I think as we're just getting used to that, and we're demanding that. And so I just wanted to call that out. I thought that was a great quote from you, so thank you for that. I'm going to use that in the future, just so you know I'm stealing that one.
You're absolutely welcome to. You're absolutely welcome to.
Sorry, I'm going to let you go on, Jamie, but if anyone has just joined us, because there's quite a few people have just entered, just to let you know, if you have any questions, please feel free to just drop them in the chat box and ask Jamie. Sorry, Jamie, where you go?
No. I think it just kind of ties in nicely to what we were just talking about. And when it comes to specifically with Gen Z, they're actually happy to provide more information to the hotel, to any vendor really who is wanting to engage with them. But they'll provide you with more personal information to ensure a personalized experience. They will give you the information you need to be able to deliver that to them. And this kind of backs up what I said before as well about the demand for the personalization and the expectation of it. Is this group that's coming up, this demographic, 44% of them would actually stop using a website that didn't anticipate their needs, wants, or like. A good example maybe of this is they're the generation who have grown up with, or certainly for a lot of their life, have had Netflix and Amazon recommending stuff to them. It's based on their previous purchases. It's based on their likes, their interest. So it's giving them things that are relevant to them, and that's something we'll keep coming back to. It's all about it being relevant, and it's all about offering the additional value and not something that isn't going to be of any interest to them or any benefit to them. And when it comes to channels, I mean, we talked actually there just about sort of email and the maybe sort of the older generations as well. But email is a channel that actually speaks to a lot of the different demographics. So it's one that Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z, they're all receptive to. So that's a huge section of your market, even at that sort of high level. And HubSpot, who are a B2B CRM platform, they recently reported some research in the US that email campaigns actually generate $38 for every $1 spent. So that's actually an ROI of 3,800%, which is pretty phenomenal, and makes email easily one of the best performing channels for communication that is at the disposal of the hotelier. As I said, it's also a channel that a lot of your demographic are receptive to, and that's reflected there. The hotel industry is so competitive that email is actually absolutely critical for building the one-to-one relationships with guests that lead to direct bookings and guest loyalty. By making sure that your email comms are actually personalized rather than just generic, offering value additions and upsells or information to enhance the experience, that only increases the effectiveness. It will only benefit in the long run from both satisfaction and from a revenue point of view as well. I'm just going to quickly look at why you should do this, and it falls into two main camps. There's the additional revenue benefits. So there is 62% of consumers would actually be open to spending more if the additional service that they're offered complements their main purchase. That confirms there is a potential for additional sales through personalized offers, and by customizing your services and offering services that are only of interest to your guests, you're actually increasing the chance of a sale. You're giving them a personalized experience. You're offering value additions to them that are relevant to their specific situation, but you're also putting yourself in the best chance to earn ancillary revenue and increase the lifetime revenue of a guest at the same time. The other main reason for doing this is to improve the guest experience and satisfaction. And a customer first and a personalized approach will actually increase customer satisfaction and loyalty. Unlike, for example, say a traveler staying in a seasonal rental, such as an Airbnb, a guest who's staying in a hotel expects a range of services. They expect recommendations, they expect hospitality, which goes without saying, and they expect a special welcome. It's therefore essential to address each guest individually and to understand their expectations and preferences in order to respond as accurately as possible throughout their whole stay and their whole journey. If you personalize your customer and guest communications, you'll improve the guest satisfaction and enhance your establishment's reputation at the same time. And reviews and ratings from guests have a really large impact on your potential bookers. That it's an integral part of the purchasing process. There was a study actually carried out by TrustYou, and they found that 88% of travellers who were searching filter out hotels from their searches with an average star rating below 3. So that kind of underlines, for me certainly, underlines the importance of the guest satisfaction to the overall guest journey for not just the guest who's out at the minute, but your future guests who are looking as well. So all of this, it comes back down to, and we'll keep using these 3 words, it's by humanizing your brand and communicating in a human way on a one-to-one basis at scale, you can improve your likelihood of direct revenue because you've increased the satisfaction of your guests, who are then going to leave feedback, which becomes part then of the booking process of the next guest. It's all well and good me sitting here talking about personalization, but it's how can you do this? How can you actually personalize your communication? The sheer human effort required to personalize every single communication, to go and look and find everything you need, and personalize every single message, whether it be marketing or just a general offer, make it near impossible to have to sit and do it. The human effort required is pretty high. The key to being able to do it at scale lies within the data that's held on each guest in your hotel and within your hotel tech stack. I mean, each different disparate system that you've got has different bits of information about a guest. Your PMS will have information, your food and beverage will have information. There's information about your guest all over your hotel. With that data, you can actually start to understand your guests, and you can start to create profiles and personas of your guests. And this is the underpinning bit of being able to provide effective personalized communications, is to understand your guests, to build a profile and know who your guests are, know who's staying with you, know who has stayed with you, and know who's your repeat business. So the guest data, as I say, is just essential to understand this, to understand preferences, their behavior, the interactions that they want. So whether they want to be engaged with by email, whether they want SMS or WhatsApp, all of that, you can gather and have all that data, and you can use that then to build your profiles and personas to start planning your personalized communications.
Jamie,
but given,
maybe jump in there, because again, and I've written all of this down when we had our little run through. Again, I love your quote that quality data is a business asset, and I couldn't agree with you anymore. And I think that a lot of that starts with your property management system and having great data in there. And as you know, for the last 15, 18 years, I've worked with so many hotels, and going in, and the country of origin is like, Uzbekistan, because it just happens to be the first one on the list. So do you agree that kind of making sure that working from the top down, that the management empower the teams to make sure that they're putting good quality information into the property management system, not skipping corners, and that the team should really be empowered to understand how important that is, to know, where that guest, the proper rate code, the address, the market segment, all of that is really, really key. Have you, well, I know that I have a couple of experiences, but do you have any tips for kind of trying to do that, empower people to do that?
Absolutely, and you're right. It really is about empowering your team to understand the importance of it. And I think that's the key bit. Is it's when you bring them on, rather than making it a diktat from on high, is get them to buy into it. Make sure you communicate the actual value of why you're asking them to do this. Don't make it become a tick box exercise. Make sure that they all understand the value of it, and make it just a part of the standard process and procedures of the hotel. When you bring new staff on, for example, have it as part of the induction, where you talk about why this is important, why you're asking them to do this. And great example of this is show your team how getting that booking.com or OTA email address converted into a real email address, which has value for the business, and that piece of data is an asset because that allows you to communicate. Is get them to understand why that's important, and make sure that you communicate that effectively to them, and you can have a bit of fun with it as well. It's have a target percentage of conversion of the OTA email addresses into real email addresses, and have a bit of a friendly competition with that.
Tweets on us, we get over 80% or something like that. Yeah, that's really good.
Exactly.
One of the things, Jamie, it's just a very quick story, but actually it resonates to so many hotels and that I speak with, is that a particular 4-star beautiful luxury spa hotel that I was working with a few years ago really felt that they were a wedding business, okay, and they felt that that's the main guest and the main focus. And then when we started to break it down, what we actually realized was that, yes, wedding guests, maybe brought in 40% of their room revenue, but actually leisure guests brought in 60% of their room revenue. And then when I went back and told the management team this, they went, okay, well, that must be romantic couples coming here for a lovely romantic break, because it's that type of property.
Yeah.
But actually, when we did the analysis by rate code and actually looked at our guest profiles and really upped the game with collecting information, and saw that the packages that were coming through were like the girly breaks with, spa with, Prosecco on arrival and things like that. What we actually realized was that it was 2 girls coming. It was a mum and daughter or 2 friends coming. So that changed how we communicated out into this hotel. So we built a persona of someone who did not exist, but her name is Emma. And we put a picture of her everywhere behind back of house. So Emma, was 28, the car she drove, she was married, her children, where she liked to shop, what clothes she wore, where she went on holiday. And suddenly we'd built up a personality so that whenever we were writing packages or trying to push out anything that we wanted to encourage that market segment, all we had to do was look at Emma. And we knew that we weren't talking to, 60 plus on their retirement, or we weren't talking to families, or we weren't talking to romantic couples. We were talking to Emma, because Emma was going to come with her mom, or she was going to come with her friend. And that completely changed the marketing and completely changed how we communicated out. And I guess I just wanted to throw that in, because that completely changed how that hotel went about their business, and it completely changed their bottom line. So even doing a simple exercise like that really can be really important to how you actually drive your business through. And I guess again, we all have this staycationer now, and whether you're still whether you're a leisure-based hotel, as Janelle, if any of you sat on Janelle's thing a couple of weeks ago, her webinar, it's that reluctant staycationer. Everyone wants to be in Dubai or in Paris or whatever, and they can't be. So they're coming to your hotel and they're expecting the kind of experience that they would have had if they had been in Dubai or Paris. So again, for me, it is understanding how to communicate with that guest and what you need to change internally to make sure that your pricing, your images, your content, your communication, everything is talking to that guest. So thank you for allowing me my 2 minutes in the light. I'm going to stop talking now, Jamie.
No. I think, to be honest, Adrienne, what you've just said it's so important, and the personas, they're really key. To be honest, they help with everything. And I'll touch on this in a wee bit later on, but you're right. I mean, you can think the majority of your guests are one type, but when you actually look at the data, you can be really surprised. And when you actually go in and analyze it, and that's the key, that's the starting point to all of this, is going in and understanding what they look like. And it can be a challenge, because leads nicely into this slide, because this is an example of what a hotel technology stack can look like. It's like you've got the information, your PMS, but you could have, depending on your hotel, you could have so many different systems that are in there that have bits of information that would allow you to know that. And it's about making sure that you're extracting the information that you need from these different systems to be able to build these profiles. And I'll just, I mean, we've actually sort of organically talked about a couple of these, but when it comes to guest profiles and the data, you can actually start building a picture, and backwards. You can start building a picture of your guests, and using the data, you can define them into these personas. And a couple of examples that you could come up with, and these will be unique to your hotel. I mean, there's no standard for this. It will be depending on your data. The example you've just given about the spa packages and the type of guests within that, that's just an excellent example of that. But you could have the business traveler who's always on the move. You've got a family who are on a sightseeing holiday. You've got a couple enjoying a romantic weekend. You've got the parents visiting their child. And you can build these profiles using the data that you've got to start trying to segment down the personas that actually come to your hotel. And once you've done that, you can actually then take these guest personas and these guest types and characterize them further with other criteria, such as level of customer loyalty, satisfaction. You know, for example, you've got the business traveler, and this is building that picture that you talked about, Adrienne, as well. You've got the business traveler who comes every year to a trade fair. You've got the parents who stay every 3 months to visit their child at university. You've got the guest who's been to your restaurant or spa several times. You've got the guests who left positive reviews the last time they stayed in one of your establishments. And once you've got this down and you've got the other criteria down, you can then start to build offers and communications around that persona type, and enables you to then start to look at things like, for example, for the business traveler, if you've got this persona in this target segment, offering them transport links or discounted rates on a partner transport provider from the airport or the train station, say, to your hotel, that can be then beneficial. That's a value add to them. It's relevant to them. And you can also generate ancillary revenue if you've got an agreement set up with a third-party provider for that. It takes a lot of work to do this, and to create your guest personas, but also match then the services and build that journey and that picture for communications. But it's not lost time, and it will pay off. It really will. It really will pay off in the end. I'll run through a couple of examples, just to give you something to think about how you can build in communications and journeys to these different types of personas. And for example, a business traveler, you offer them an early check-in or late checkout prior to arrival, resend it to those who haven't completed it the day before their arrival, do the same for a late checkout. The transfer one I mentioned before, offer them quick and easy transportation links from the airport or train station directly to the hotel, even directions, that kind of thing for business travelers. They're on the move. And one actually that was suggested to me, which I actually think is quite a nice one, is offer them the ability to order maybe some room service in advance. Offer them the ability to have that delivered just after they actually arrive at the hotel and check in. Business travelers may not have the time to find a bite to eat, or they may arrive at an unsocial hour and have missed the service of local restaurants. If your persona show you've got a couple on a romantic getaway, offer special in-room welcomes and things beforehand, roses and champagne, and that kind of thing, to be left in the room on arrival. Spa treatments as well, it would be quite relevant to that particular persona. They give them the possibility to relax, ask them if they want to book it in advance, so they know that they've got something to look forward to. It helps enhance the experience. And then room upgrades as well. So a few days before arrival, send the guest an email with a special upgrade offer. The extra price would actually feel smaller in comparison to the original booking. If you're offering this value edition, it's at a smaller price, rather than if they looked at it initially, they didn't book. They booked the lower priced room, but showing them the difference, it's much more likely to be well received than showing them the total price for it as well. Family visiting, and this is one I think we actually talked about, Adrienne, was if a family's visiting, suggest personalised room features. If they stay a lot, and you know that they stay a lot, and they always ask for a cot for the room, offer that to them in advance. Make sure suggest a room with a spare bed or a bath for a family. Offer them activities. Offer parents, if it's a family booking, you can potentially find this based on your rate code. If you've offered a deal specific to the family, if you're able to use that rate code and attribute that to this persona, offer them activities, local activities, events. There's tour aggregators as well, which you can put in, which again can generate ancillary revenue if there's local offerings available. It's offering the convenience for them as well. It'll be well received. And just some other examples under this as well would be food and beverage. So encourage guests to book a table in your restaurant or breakfast in advance, but only offer it to the guests who haven't already booked breakfast or dinner in your restaurant. There's nothing worse than receiving an offer for something that you've already booked, particularly if it ends up being cheaper than when you booked it before. So it's a key one to remember, and it is the challenge of all of this, of personalization, and reward loyal customers. Reward loyalty, and offer discounts, maybe a discount on a spa treatment, money off in the restaurant, or an upgraded suite on their next stay, that kind of thing, to your loyal customers. And again, you can, based on your personas, build that out and build that journey. I've talked a lot about offers there, but I just want to go back to the point I made before, but it's not all just about the sale. It's not just about selling. It's not enough to just adapt the service you offer to the guest. Adapt the messages you send them as well. The most obvious example is a greeting message. If someone has stayed with you before, say welcome back. Say happy to see you again, rather than hello. Show that you remember them. Show that you have valued their previous stay. All of this, and we've talked a little bit about this already, but is that all of this personalization, all your guest communications, it should be driven by the data. And inconsistent, incorrect data, as we've mentioned, it can lead you to draw false conclusions. It can lead you down the wrong path. And to be perfectly honest, in my mind, it's worthless. If you're sat on a database of 20,000 records, it means nothing if it's of no use to you and can't be used to actually segment your guest out. What we really want is actionable data that is an asset to the business, and it must be clean and it must be consistent. It applies to any business, but in the hotel, poor data can actually be costly. For example, hotels might capture data like contact information, addresses, guest preferences. However, if the addresses are inconsistent or incomplete, you're likely to end up with the cost of having to redo your communication, or even worse, you're not going to engage with that guest and you could potentially lose them as well. The old adage there of garbage in, garbage out is pretty accurate in this case. If the data isn't able to facilitate this, then if the data isn't right and the data isn't clean and actionable, it's not going to allow you to actually execute or build these personas or build the personalization journey that you want to do. We've talked about this already, actually, but the data quality and making sure the data is right, it's everyone's responsibility. It's not just your marketing bod. It's get everyone to buy into it. Get everyone to buy into the fact that it's an asset to the business, and ensure that everyone gets this. Incentivize it, as we've talked about. Have cheat sheets for the front desk and so on. And again, the best example of this is making sure that you work to convert the OTA email addresses into real email addresses on check-in. With the personalized communications, you can actually start to drive loyalty. And as I mentioned previously, just with how we address, say, guests who've stayed before with welcome back and that kind of thing, rather than just a standard greeting. It's, I really do believe that today more than ever, guests probably wish to be recognized more for their previous stays. They want the convenience, they want savings, choice, and of course, in this COVID world that we're in at the minute, they want to be assured of cleanliness and hygiene as well. And you can communicate all of that in your communications and do it in a human and one-to-one way. I mean, speaking personally, that's the kind of loyalty that is more likely, I believe, to get them to come back. In terms of, with everything going on at the minute, I'm not going to stay a second time in a hotel where I thought cleanliness was compromised just to get another 200 loyalty points. I'm going to come back to the hotel that assured me in advance of what they were doing, communicated that, was clean, was everything was up to that, rather than just go back to get my 200 points on my loyalty card. We're all consumers, you, I, all of our guests. People switch retailers to save a few pounds. People are fickle, at the end of the day. And big brands don't hold the same power that they used to. And that's actually, it's an opportunity as well for us to engage with our guests, to build that relationship, and to show that there is real value in getting to know the hotel and the hotel getting to know you as well.
Jamie, I've had a little question from someone who's maybe a little bit shy of putting it into the chat box just on my phone there.
Right.
Sorry for continually glancing down, I was just keeping an eye. But the question was, I guess, and it's something you and I actually talked about, is how much is too much? If you're emailing guests, and talking to them and starting this conversation, when does it cross over to being maybe creepy, of that you knew that they maybe stayed and had dinner, bed and breakfast in the past? Do you automatically talk about that, or, how do you handle that of getting that right in the hotel, of how many emails you should send before or after your stay?
It's a great question. It's one that doesn't have maybe a black and white answer. But to kind of go on the first point with the whole creepy vibe, and is, as we've said before, is keep it conversational, and offering a guest something that they have an interest in. For example, if they've dined before and that, offering them that's different from potentially the creepy level of knowing their dog's name by having gone on their Facebook profile and all of this kind of thing, which, there's a real risk that if you do that, you're going to scare them off, to be honest. And yeah, it can be really creepy. You can hit that line pretty easily between helpful, conversational, adding value, and intrusive really quickly. And I think people are becoming more wary as well. So I think you need to be sure about what you're offering is going to be of value to them. I mean, a great example actually of this would be, there was the response after that docudrama on Netflix, the Social Dilemma, when that went out. I mean, people are more aware of how data is maybe being harvested without them realizing, but that's going into the creepy territory. But by offering them value and offering them convenience, I think you're staying on the right side of intrusive and the right side of creepy. It's a fine line, but maybe think of it this way: would it be creepy if it came from a person? Is maybe the best way to put it. Is if it would be creepy for a person to be saying this or offering you this, don't put it in your emails. You want to going back to that humanizing your brand. You don't want your communications to overstep into the intrusive. You want them to complement the human offering of your brand. And on the second part, with the number of emails and so on, that very much depends on your hotel and your guests. You need to start by looking at the data, planning it out, mapping it all out, and that actually leads on sort of to the next point I'll come on to actually, is look at your own guest journey, figure out who your guests are, plan that, and then build the communications around that and go from there.
Okay, I promise not to interrupt you again.
No, no.
I know we're flying through time here, Jamie, so sorry. I'll let you
No.
crack on.
No.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
I'll quickly just quickly talk through this, but this is just on the point I was saying about the brands and the power that maybe brands don't have as much as they used to. Is there's this figure which came from a company called Havas, who publish an annual Meaningful Brands Index. And as far back as 2017, they surveyed 1,500 global brands and obtained feedback from 300,000 people in 33 countries. So a huge sample, across the globe with different demographics. Their report showed that 74% of people wouldn't actually care if the global brand that they used now disappeared. They wouldn't care. It goes back to the point of, I really, really strongly believe that we should be looking to drive loyalty through the experience. And this comes back to maybe touching on the reluctant staycationer that was mentioned. They want an experience that's comparable to the one they would have got if they'd gone to Dubai. If you get that right, they're maybe likely to come to you again. And maybe still go and have their holiday in Dubai, but they might actually take the time to come and stay with you again as well. So you might actually get them to staycation a little more once things are back to more normality. The key to all of this is, I believe, is understanding your guests' RFM, so your recency, frequency, and monetary reporting is the best way to recognize and reward loyalty off the back of that. And being able to recognize who's been in your hotel before, what they consumed whilst they were there, whether it was food and beverage or an amenity, and communicating with them in a personalized way about that. And that goes back to the offering value and not intrusively knowing that they don't like ice in their gin and tonic and giving it to them without ice without them asking. It's going back to offering value using the data on the previous experience as well. I just believe that is a key to getting guests to come back for a second, third, fourth time. I'm going to quickly run through just a bit of an example of a hotel group that's actually put this into practice. And this, again, goes back to the question about how we look at all this and how do we start with all of this. And for those on the call who are not familiar, Crieff Hydro family of hotels is a collection of 7 hotels based in Scotland, located in Perthshire, the Bonnie Borders, and along the west coast. And Crieff actually took the time since the onset of the pandemic to evaluate their approach to guest communications and evaluate their approach to data. And email was a very good channel for them. And as we talked about, email is a very, very powerful channel as well. But they took this time to really start to look and segment their guests and kind of build that journey again. What Crieff did over the course of the first set of public health restrictions and initial lockdown was they set up personalised pre-stay and post-stay automated emails to newly defined segments. So they took the time to go back to the start of all of this and look and segment and create profiles. And historically, their emails were sent from their PMS. They had no ability to see open rates and uptake to provide a deep level of segmentation. And with new measures that they put in place due to COVID and new flexible terms and conditions on bookings, one of the key drivers for them was to develop an email program that regularly kept in touch with the guest in the run up to their stay to make sure that they actually committed to the stay, so that they didn't, that they were reassured enough to carry through with the stay. And that took the form of encouraging upsells, so offering additional value to each guest, reassuring messages about the measures that have been taken in line with the public health guidance, and rewarding loyalty, which took the form of rebooking offers as well. Crieff actually set up 72 different triggered segments for this so far across the whole family of hotels, with different time deployment rules to different personas and segments with personalized content depending upon how the booking was made and where the guest is staying. And this is directly from their own words that they kindly wrote for us when we asked them about what they've been doing over the lockdown. The results from this whole process, so creating this personalized guest journey to reassure, reward loyalty, and get guests to commit to their stay, they had phenomenal results. The revenue driven through direct click from email to booking from July to September was 500k, which was an 861% increase over the same months in 2019. And they believe that emails have contributed a lot more revenue than this, but this is specifically from the pre-stay, post-stay emails that they were able to gather that amount. The post-stay emails also included a rebooking offer to encourage guests to return, and that has driven over 200k of revenue since going live in mid-July. So people were willing to rebook after having gone during the brief window of reopening. And from a guest communication point of view, and this is directly from Creef, is these emails actually helped keep the guests informed of what they needed to do to prepare themselves for operational changes that had happened within the hotel due to COVID-19, and what they needed to book in advance. For example, Creef Hydro itself has a lot of activities that are available, and with the restrictions and so on, a lot of that isn't probably available to be just walked up to anymore. Everything needs to be booked in advance. But actually being consistent with the communication, offering reassurance, and telling, communicating very clearly with the guest, it dramatically reduced. They said it hasn't stopped all complaints, but there's definitely been fewer issues as a direct result of this communication plan and taking the time to analyze their data and understand their guests, as well as being able to see how a guest is engaged. And then the last bit, which I think I'll try and whiz through because I know time is starting to run short, is just about how revenue and marketing can align to actually help deliver.
This is the most important bit, Jamie. When revenue,
I know. It is. I've got some interesting thoughts. But when it comes to driving revenue through personalization of guest communications, there needs to be more alignment between revenue and marketing within the hotel. I hear many tales from different people, however, that is sometimes easier said than done. I just wanted to run through at this bit just a few bits of information and stuff to think about, that if you're not already sharing between your marketing and your revenue teams, that starting to share that information will allow you to really work on delivering the best communication plan that you can for your guests. And when it comes to looking at it from the marketing side, marketing are close to the guest. They have an understanding of preferences, such as why, where, how far in advance they book. Marketing team are also the ones who, they're segmenting the guests into different targets, and they're matching the messages to segment and channel. Marketing uses revenues, demand marketing, and comp set data to refine the targeting and improve their campaigns. But as a marketer, it comes down to sharing more back to your revenue colleagues. And there's three things I just wanted to highlight that are probably good to make sure that you're feeding regularly back to your revenue team. The first one is your guest personas, the profiles that we've been talking about. So while these don't change that often, it's surprising how many hotels don't make these personas a part of training for revenue teams. Marketing should be working with them to help align the revenue department and the whole organization around these target demographics. Guest preferences, keep everyone in the revenue department and your revenue teams up to date on who your guests are, as well as what they expect before, during, and after the stay. It'll allow everyone to plan more effectively. Guest reviews, back up your personas and preferences. Make it a habit to share recent guest reviews back to the revenue teams to identify opportunities for marketing and revenue campaigns. Use those reviews. There's absolute wealth of information that will be held within those as well. On the other side, marketing should be asking for more information from revenue. They should be using all of the great information and knowledge that the revenue departments have and the revenue managers have to help build their communication plan and making sure everything's aligned. It just comes back to that, comes back to making sure everything's aligned. And some examples there are demand data. Each market ebbs and flows and evolves over time. Lean on your revenue colleagues and keep yourself appraised of the trends. They're the ones who know. So tap into their knowledge. Stay patterns. Understanding how far in advance guests book, as well as how long they stay, should underpin marketing campaigns. But without a clear understanding of booking window patterns, marketers may resort to panic discounting or have a marketing automation drip campaign that misaligns with booking windows. Keep in the loop with your revenue colleagues on these patterns and listen carefully to any insights that they provide around shifting patterns. Tap into their knowledge. Booking evolution, pricing trends for competitors mean marketers can more easily understand the competition's pricing position. Revenue managers must also understand the booking evolution on their hotel's own website as pricing affects conversions. So all of that data needs to be free-flowing back and forward. Business origin. This data is immensely valuable for marketers honing in on promising segments or drilling deeper on segments they're looking to grow. And that, again, comes back to the personalization element of all of this is, for example, if you know that Americans tend to book further out, you can collaborate between marketing and revenue on a targeted campaign that reflects these unique characteristics. And again, that's drawing on the data, it's drawing on the knowledge, and it's creating a personalized campaign, personalized communication to that specific demographic or persona. Demand-based pricing. Since low demand dates are easily identified in revenue management software, such as Right Revenue, marketers should use these dates to target date-based campaigns or for flash sales to boost demand for underperforming dates as well. And you can build all of this into your personalized communication journeys. And lastly, events. Both revenue and marketing teams can identify potential campaigns or offers that specifically target certain events. This information, when freely shared, can also prevent your marketing team from inadvertently running a promotion during a period of high compression. It's not a quick fix. None of this is a quick fix, but all of this is well worth your time and your thought, from looking at your personas to how your revenue and marketing colleagues work together and the information that's shared between them. It should all be collaborative with this and draw on the data that's held within the hotel, as well as the knowledge of your colleagues. Lastly, just a few takeaways from all of this, and the first one really is that consumer behaviour has changed, and it's changed radically in response to COVID-19 and lockdowns, public health restrictions, lack of international travel, all of that. And I really believe that hotels, this is the time, and there is a need to rethink about how you connect with your market and with your guests. And highly personalized communications throughout your guest journey and mapping out your guest journey is absolutely vital to maximize the value of each guest and loyalty towards your hotel and your brand. Second point, and I can't stress this enough, I've even put asset in bold. I was going to put it in capital letters, but it seemed a bit obnoxious, is that quality data should be seen as a business asset. It's not just cells on a spreadsheet. It's not just something that lives within your PMS that you're not quite, but everyone should see it as an asset. They should buy into the value of every single bit of information that you gather on your guest and put that data to work. It can really help your business separate itself from competitors, which of course is so important at the minute during current trading conditions. It doesn't have to be expensive. It can really, really make a difference though, by making sure that the data is clean and actionable. It's a great starting point. Looking at your personas and making sure that the data that you're gathering is clean, actionable, and everyone's bought into why. Third point, just as a takeaway, is increasing guest expectations mean that hoteliers need to personalize the guest journey from start to finish. It's no longer a question of just offering the same options to all your guests. As we talked about, the demographics are changing, expectations are changing from the reluctant staycationer right through to Gen Z coming up. You need to suggest services and offers and that are tailored and personalized to each guest, as you would as if they spoke to you directly. It's think about this as an extension of the concierge concept. You're offering value to them. You're offering things that are directly relevant to them. It's all fueled by the data, as I've said before. I've said many times throughout this, but without the smart collection of data, personalization, it can't be efficient. It can't be automated if you have the solution to do that. And data needs to be intelligently managed in order to provide an experience that meets the expectations of each guest. And the last point that I want to leave you all with is humanize your brand. Whatever way you're communicating, whatever you're writing, to talk to people like they're humans. It's a really, really key point. Is, you know, speak one to one and communicate with empathy, I think, is a big point. And that's me.
Yay! Jamie, thank you so much. I have a quick round up, if you don't mind, I'd like to do. We have one question, and I think Eunice would like to actually talk to you directly, so I'm just going to unmute. And okay, Eunice, so you can chat away and ask Jamie some questions.
No, I wanted to ask Jamie how much part of loyalty program behavior is playing in a restaurant in a hotel industry.
How much a loyalty program, as in a points-based system?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, how much of an impact does it have on consumer behavior if they get loyalty points or if they don't get loyalty points from a hotel?
Well, to be honest, and this is maybe a controversial opinion, particularly given perhaps your own service offering, and as I mentioned before, is I do strongly believe that the experience is what matters. As demographics change as well, it's the experience that matters rather than the collection of points. Yes, rewarding people is great, and it's a lot of what we should be doing in our personalized communications anyway, but I do believe that you can build a lot of loyalty without they absolutely have their place, and they absolutely are something that work for many hotels, and I'm not going to say otherwise, but I do believe that there is a lot of basic loyalty and brand loyalty and loyalty to a specific hotel can be achieved through personalized communications, through offering value to the guest, through just communicating in a human way. That can be augmented potentially by a points-based system, but I believe that the core of it is going to be down based on experience rather than actually just collecting the points, if that answers the question.
Yeah, that's great, Jamie. Listen, I'm really conscious of the time, and we do like to keep it under an hour, so it's just after 11 o'clock. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for today. My kind of roundup, I was just making notes as you were chatting, was that no matter, obviously, if you are in the very lucky position that you can have technology, and obviously we'll pass your details on when we send out the recording, that, you know, if technology is something that you can look at, fantastic, it's the way to go. But if not, I guess for me it was make sure you have your persona right, and understand that your persona may have changed because of this reluctant staycationer. Janelle is going to kill me for talking about that so much. But you know, just understand that may have changed, and use the data. Make sure that you are targeting your own teams to make sure that data is clean and useful, and get that buy-in from everybody. And talking about teams, it's that kind of, you know, of course I'm going to focus on this, that, you know, revenue and marketing need to be really consistent in their communication. You know, the teamwork makes the dream work, so make sure that everybody's communicating, break down those silos, get your teams working together to understand that, you know, 2 and 2 actually does make 5, you know, when you put everything together. And personalization is the way forward. We can't get away from it. And I guess if any of you have heard me speak before, or anything that I've written, I use this David Bowie quote all the time. I wish I'd thought of it. That future belongs to those who hear it coming. So we've got this little unique time at the moment to understand our guests. Hence, we've put this program of Revenue Ready together. But we've got this little unique time to think, what does the future look like? how are we going to be armed and dangerous for our new guests? You know, how are we going to make that experience incredible, because our guests are going to demand so much more, and are we actually ready for it? So Jamie, thank you so much for today. Thank you for everyone who has joined us. As I say, not a pitch for you guys, but I will certainly include your details. And for any of you who don't know and too much about Right Revenue, we do have a software system, but we are offering some free tools at the moment to help you understand how to build rates and how to cost rooms and things like that. So if anyone would like to access those, we're giving them away completely free, a little gift to the industry, then just email me, and we're very happy to give those to you if you are a hotelier, not a consultant, if you're a hotelier. So Jamie, thank you so much. We will get this recording out to everybody. I know how much work you've put into this, so massive big round of applause to you. So thank you so much, and thanks everyone for joining, and thanks for all your lovely feedback. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.